bulletin with some breaking news that's coming in. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has tweeted out on the G7 summit calling his Japan stay a fruitful visit. He has said, and I quote, met several world leaders during the G7 summit and discussed a variety of issues with them. Gratitude to Prime Minister Kishida, the government and the people of Japan for their warmth. Leaving for Papua New Guinea in a short while. So this is what Prime Minister Narendra Modi has tweeted out on the G7. He has called his Japan stay a fruitful visit. He has said that he met several world leaders during the G7 summit and discussed a variety of issues with them. And he has also expressed gratitude to Japan Prime Minister Kishida, the government and the people of Japan for their warmth. CNN News 18's political editor Maria Shakil is joining us. Maria, so Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called his Japan visit a fruitful visit, and he has also said that he met several world leaders and discussed a variety of issues with them. Today, as we know that he had a bilateral meeting with UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Can you give us more details about the meeting?
Yes, that's right. So the Prime Minister has concluded this leg of his international trip. He is heading to Papua New Guinea and thereafter to Australia. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi did have a bilateral with Rishi Sunak, in which Prime Minister invited him for G20 summit. The world leaders meet, remember, in September is taking place in India. Presently has the presidency of G20. They discussed a number of trade issues as well, the teething issues that are there between India and UK. The high point of Prime Minister's visit were three of them, I would say. First would be, in terms of optics, the unveiling of the Gandhi bust, which happened inside the Hiroshima Memorial Peace Park, and the fact that G7 is being hosted in Hiroshima by Japanese Prime Minister Kishida, who represents Hiroshima, it becomes even more important, because we are living in the backdrop of a live conflict. Zelensky's meeting with Prime Minister Modi was another high point, certainly, in which President Zelensky of Ukraine has extended an invitation for the Indian Prime Minister to visit Kyiv. Whether he will do that or not, that remains to be seen. But the Prime Minister did, reiterate India's commitment towards peace and said what he told, Vladimir Putin on the bylines of the Samarkand SCO, that this is not an era of war. So Prime Minister communicating to President Zelensky that India stands firmly with him. And another very interesting aspect of this entire G7 summit, of which India was invited for 3 outreach sessions, was his meeting with President Joe Biden of United States, in which Joe Biden said that be it the Quad Summit or the Indo-Pacific, India, is setting the agenda. How India is playing a very, very, important role globally in terms of deciding the direction of the global politics and deciding the direction of the narrative building. Prime Minister Joe Biden also telling Prime Minister Modi that he has a rather unique problem at hand. That was also communicated by Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese to Prime Minister Modi, that they have been getting requests to participate in the event that is going to take place in Sydney. And President Joe Biden said that he has been, flooded with requests for the event that is going to take place in Washington, D.C. Even Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be visiting Washington for a state visit next month. So rather interesting exchange of conversations that has taken place on the sidelines. If you look at it, it has been quite, a hectic schedule for the Prime Minister, besides being fruitful as he leaves Hiroshima for the next leg.
Also, Maria, can you also throw some light on the relevance of India, who is not even a part of the G7 countries, but is still a regular guest at the G7 summit?
Yes, that's right. So the G7 doesn't have a charter or a secretariat. It is the country which holds the presidency, decides the agenda. And Prime Minister Kishida, who comes from Hiroshima, chose the city of Hiroshima to host the world leaders in trying to send a message that what can be an outcome if there is a devastation or an atomic bomb, because it is happening with the regular threats coming from by Russia against Ukraine in that ongoing war. So Prime Minister Kishida wanted to ensure that the world leaders come on one platform. And, those countries which are seen as rising powers, those countries such as India, which is seen as setting the agenda of the global south, are also invited. So 8 countries in all, including India, was invited for this, which included Brazil and Australia. And that is the reason why the Quad Summit was also held on the sidelines. The message here is that India matters. India is being heard. That Prime Minister Narendra Modi, when he says that he is here to amplify the voices of the global south, he's actually setting the tone of what are the points of convergence, what are the issues that impacts the global south, the issues such as climate change, the issues of rising fuel, the issues of prices, and the similar concerns, be it related to fertilizers and other concerns. So I think Prime Minister Narendra Modi in that meeting was representing the entire global south. And rightly so, 120 countries which represent the underdeveloped and developing countries form that. It's an informal grouping at the moment, but we are seeing increasingly the focus shifting to that, and India, having managed its economy well, being seen as a bright spot by top multinational companies and also by International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, that it has managed its economy pretty well in the post-COVID situation, post-COVID world, is being seen as perhaps having an answer to a number of world problems. And that is the reason why Prime Minister Modi at the high table was being watched by just about one and all. You would see, I can fairly say that China would be jittery as to what really happened in Hiroshima this weekend.
All right.